in the final night of the DNC. Brody Carter breaking it all down with now, and he's asking what he's asking of his fellow Americans. Good morning.
Joe Biden formally accepting the nomination for President of the United States virtually in Delaware, with supporters rallying from their cars, honking in solidarity as the party moves forward. Now, Biden's capstone speech, it was preceded by a handful of speeches from competitors recalling stories of Joe on the campaign trail. His family further introduced their father and his fight for the presidency. During his speech, Biden touched on the emotional topic of the death due to viruses across the nation, lamenting with families who've lost a loved one due to this pandemic, saying he would implement a nationwide mask order if elected president. He also spoke about tumultuous events over the last few years, including Charlottesville, George Floyd, and the economic collapse, rallying the country to come together and fight for what he calls a battle for the soul of the nation.
United, we can and will overcome this season of darkness in America. In times as challenging as these, I believe there's only one way forward. As a united America, I accept this nomination for President of the United States of America.
Next up, the Republican National Convention that begins Monday. Campaign spokesman Hogan Gidley says the president and his team will be rallying and ready with plenty of surprises. In the newsroom, Brody Carter, Fox 17 News.
All right, appreciate that, Brody. Well, a man has died after drowning in the Kalamazoo River.
We're told that man was fishing by himself near the Marshall Street Bridge in Allegan yesterday when the incident took place. Police were called to the area around 7:15 last night after the man's family reported him overdue to return home. The Allegan County Dive and Rescue Team found the 26-year-old 10 feet deep in the water. His name has not yet been released.
And Kalamazoo public safety officers investigating an overnight shooting. It was around 12:30. They got a call of shots fired on Florence Street. Later, a 30-year-old victim showed up to the hospital who apparently had been shot. We're told they're in stable condition at this point. But if you know anything more about this, call Kalamazoo Department of Public Safety. 419 new cases of COVID-19 being confirmed in Michigan in the last day.
They're also announcing 19 deaths, but 11 of those come from a review of older records. More than 2.6 million tests have been performed with a positive rate of 3.5%. That figure has remained steady over the last few weeks. Meanwhile, the fatality rate continues to fall. That's currently at 6.7%. Well, the Michigan High School Athletic Association has given the green light to competitors in all fall sports besides football up north and in the UP.
But of course, things are a little different here in West Michigan. Sarah Grimmer joining us and breaks it all down. Good morning.
Good morning. The MHSAA says they were ready to move forward with competition across the state, but executive orders made by the governor right now would not allow that in areas like ours. Here in Kent County, sports like soccer, volleyball, and swimming can still practice. They can still meet as teams, but they are not allowed to compete against opponents. There is a way they can get around this, however. They could potentially travel and play games up north. The MHSAA says this would put some limitations on that, so there are not dozens of teams meeting for tournaments. Here's the MHSAA.
Put in some limitations to where you can't have these 12-team volleyball invites. It's no more than tournaments, no more than 4 schools. So certainly a school from the Grand Rapids area could go up to Traverse City and play one of the Traverse City schools in a soccer match or something like that. But in terms of this now creating all these large-scale tournaments up north, that's already limited by some of the guidance that's in place.
And there were no changes for the plans for football right now. The athletic organization says they are working to find a time in the spring to schedule where it won't affect other seasons. Also of note, across the state, golf, tennis, and cross country are going to go on completely as normal, competitions included. The MHSAA says, of course, this is a very fluid situation. So Nicole, Alyssa, we just need to pay attention to see how things might change in the next coming months.
Yeah, making some progress there. That's good to hear. Sarah, thank you. Another popular event is canceling due to COVID-19.
Pulaski Days won't be happening in Grand Rapids this fall. The week-long celebration of Polish and Lithuanian culture normally brings thousands to the area, but organizers are concerned about how to move forward this year while keeping everyone safe, so they decided to cancel. But many of the halls depend on the event as a large part of their revenue, so the committee is launching a Save the Halls campaign to help help raise funds to help keep them afloat. You can find out how to donate at PulaskiDays.org. Well, instead of celebrating with an end-of-the-year party, some 2020 graduates are paying it forward during the pandemic.
Yeah, listen to this. The senior class of Forest Hills Northern was raising money all year for their all-night party, but like so many other things, it was canceled. So instead of issuing refunds to each of the students, the class actually decided to give back to those in their community. They donated about $2,000 to Kids Food Basket and then gave $17,000 right back to their own school.
We thought it would be a really nice thing if we were able to donate money to the school so that they were able to buy more Chromebooks and provide more students with opportunities to learn from home just as well as everyone else. And we really thought that that was a really nice thing we could do with our money to help support our northern community and the awesome school we came from.
I think this was definitely, a better way to spend that money. Obviously a party would have been fun, but I think it's great to see that money go to a good cause instead of.
Yeah, so the donations are both presented to Kids Food Basket and the school on Wednesday.
Very sweet of them.
I know,
That's awesome.
so generous.
Time now, 6:08. More to come after the break.
Well, it's been mixed messages from the president on his tax return since he was a candidate, and he still hasn't released them. How a judge's ruling could leave him no choice.
Instead of starting college this fall, some high school graduates are jumping right into the workforce. How they're learning a skilled trade thanks to one local company. Postmaster General Louis DeJoy is set to testify in front of the Senate this morning, facing backlash for cuts to the Postal Service.
Senate committee will be questioning him about the changes he was trying to implement right before millions of Americans get ready to cast their vote through the mail. The Republican chairman of the committee plans to testify in DeJoy's favor and dismiss claims he had a political narrative to sabotage the election. President Trump's former advisor Steve Bannon facing federal fraud charges.
It has to do with an alleged scam involving a fundraising campaign for the U.S.-Mexico border wall. The online crowdfunding campaign raised more than $25 million, but Bannon and 3 other men are accused of using the money for personal expenses. They're charged with conspiracy to commit wire fraud and conspiracy to commit money laundering. Each count carries a maximum penalty of 20 years. Bannon has pleaded not guilty.
Federal judge ruled that state prosecutors in New York can have access to President Trump's accounting records for a criminal investigation. The case questions whether the president or the Trump organization violated state laws in connection with hush money payments made to women alleging affairs. The president quickly appealed that decision and is asking the Second Circuit Court of Appeals for emergency help. All right, DoorDash partnering with grocery stores across the country to bring groceries to your door.
This, of course, comes at a time when people are limiting their trips to the stores due to the pandemic. Starting next week, DoorDash will be offering new and existing Dash Pass members $15 off their order. Customers can also make use of the contactless delivery.
And if you love Cinnamon Toast Crunch, we have some good news this morning. Company behind the cereal is releasing what it's calling Cinnadust. It's a new seasoning blend that will allow you to add that certain Cinnamon Toast Crunch flavor to all kinds of foods. Powdered sugar and cinnamon blend available exclusively at Sam's Club for just over $5. That starts September 1st.
Okay, let's get moving with this forecast, everybody. As you can see there, top part of the screen on the horizon, we're starting to get a little bit of light out there. A sunrise officially at 6:55, so 41 minutes away, if I'm doing the math there correctly, and a few patches of clouds that are out and about, but mostly sunny skies are going to be back in order for today. So the quiet weather pattern of recent times, of recent weeks, seems like the past couple months, not much going on here in West Michigan, and that's going to hold sway. It does appear through the upcoming weekend. 62 degrees is what we've got in GR. Mid-60s in Ionia, a little bit cooler to the south, some better radiational cooling, fewer clouds for a longer period of time, lighter winds in the overnight, and a dry atmosphere. So depending on where you're at, you could be anywhere from the mid-upper 50s to the middle 60s or so to begin. Everybody becomes uniform, though, and heads for the lower 80s at noon, 87 degrees by day's end. Yesterday, if you were paying attention, really, obviously you noticed it was warm. Also, we had some breezes, even here in Grand Rapids, as well as along the lakeshore. I don't think quite as breezy/windy today, but there will be some breezes late morning and afternoon coming about once again. So pretty darn decent Thursday, and a similar Friday here at 87. We'll gain a couple degrees, gain a few more on Saturday, and just hold right around 90 for Sunday, Monday. There is potential here Tuesday and Wednesday to go even higher. We're going to be on the eastern flank of this heat dome, so as usual, as oftentimes is the case, there can be little clusters of showers and storms that try to break down that easternmost heat envelope. So could we get into the mid-90s? I think it's a distinct possibility. It's also possible that there could be a few thunderstorm clusters that try to knock those temperatures back down into the upper 80s to around 90. So we'll see how that plays out. Bottom line is we're going to be well above normal, and even some humidity starts to get into the mix by Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. Not much happening on the radar in the overnight. There were a few sprinkles near Big Rapids a few hours ago. Any of that edging towards the east side of the state, and an associated band of clouds that has been broken, extending right across our viewing area. There is this boundary to our north. Had mentioned that the past few days, and that's where the showers and storms would be in closer proximity to that right on through this weekend. That front's not really going to be moving much. It may come close enough to bring a shower for somebody nearby on Sunday. We'll talk more about that in a moment. As far as the tropics, well, we've got Tropical Depression 13. It has not gotten to tropical storm status yet, but expected to attain that later today or into the day on Saturday. We'll look at the track of this system. Still pretty similar to what it was expected to do yesterday at this time, kind of skirting just to the north of Puerto Rico, then the Dominican Republic and Haiti, and then just off to the north of Cuba, depending on how much land interaction that has and some other factors as well as dry air entrainment. The water temperatures are blistering hot down there, very warm in the upper 80s to around 90 degrees, so that's not an inhibiting factor. There is a wide range of solutions on this system. If it stays over the open waters, there's a couple models that have it attaining major hurricane status and then threatening the coast of Florida or the Gulf Coast at some point early next week. So a wide range in how that system can play out. There's another tropical depression, number 14 of the season in the central Caribbean, that lifting to the northwest, and that can make contact with the Yucatan Peninsula there near Cancun at some point over the next 2 to 3 days. And then that will come into the Gulf of Mexico, perhaps strengthening just a bit as it does approach the Texas coastline. Both of those systems getting in fairly close proximity. So once they get close enough, they can kind of almost hurt each other in terms of their strength. We'll see how that plays out over this coming weekend. Future Track HD model doesn't have a whole lot for us here in West Michigan, just a few passing clouds. You go into the late afternoon and evening, and if you're headed out after work to do maybe a walk, a jog, yeah, it's just the same song and dance we've had recently. No threat of rainfall, and we're completely dry on Saturday. First opportunity for an isolated shower or thunder shower would be Sunday afternoon into Monday. Do not bet on that. Bet that we stay dry. Best chance for rain will be next Thursday. A cold front comes through, the timing of which we'll have to wait and see. If it waits until later in the day, we'll be back in the 90s again. And we'll have more weather coming up.
All right, perfect. Thanks, Anthony. Well, it was signed